guys. Welcome to the Page Turner Book Club. It is Monday. We know every single Monday, me and Charmaine posts a book club video. This is the last one for the book we are reading for January. We are currently reading Everyone on This Train is a Suspect. It is the sequel to Everyone in My Family Has Killed Somebody, which is what we read for December. So let me start this with, again, there's going to be spoilers, of course. We're talking about the book. We're going to review the book. We're going to give you the final, what we thought of it, like our star review, and we're going to talk about who done it and all those things. So if you have not read the book yet and you plan on reading the book and you don't want to be spoiled, do not watch the video. I'm going to start this with, I am very glad I bought the hard copy of the book because I really struggled to get into the audio. I also did not like this book nearly as much as I liked the first one. I really struggled to get into it, but I think it was because it was the audio. So I don't want this to come off the wrong way, because you guys know I come from immigrants. My parents were born in Portugal. My dad has an accent. But I find when I listen to an audio with an accent, because I tried listening to Binding 13. It was like this huge popular book talk book based in Ireland. So all the voices have an Irish accent. I could not get into the book. It was the first book I've ever, and the only book I've ever DNF'd, which means do not finish. I could not get into the book. I think because there is an accent, I have to actively listen more. So if I'm going to sit there and do nothing, then I might as well read the hard copy of the book. Like, that's just my personal opinion. So I did not give up on Binding 13. Someone actually bought me the hard copy, so I'm going to try the hard copy before I officially say I DNF'd it. But the audio, I was going in one ear and out the other. I think because of the accent, I have to focus more. I can't do my usual, which is like cooking and cleaning and washing dishes and taking a shower and driving to and from work. So I have to literally physically sit there and focus all my mental being on that. So again, if I'm going to do all that, if I'm going to sit and do nothing, I might as well read the physical book. And that's how I found about this book, because Benjamin Stevenson, I think that is his name, is the author, and he's from Australia. The book's setting is in Australia. So same thing. I believe he's the one that narrates it too. He has an Australian accent. So I really struggled to get into the book. When they said who done it, I was like, who is that? And I literally texted Charmaine. And I said, they literally announced the killer. And I wasn't like, because I didn't even know who it was. I literally ended up picking up the physical copy and rereading the entire thing again. So I read that book technically twice. And then, of course, it wasn't like because I kind of already knew. I did know what happened. So I might struggle to answer some of these questions because I didn't enjoy the book as much. And I didn't get into it as much. So we'll see. I don't even remember the questions anymore. I read 6 through 10 last week, because you guys know the video before the review is always the questions. Charmaine reads half and I read half. So I'm not even sure what 1 through 5 was. We're going to read it now. If I can't answer the question, I am just going to skip it. And at least I'm being open and honest with you guys. If this was not a book club book, it would have been a DNF for me. Although reading the physical book wasn't bad, it's just, I don't know, it's just not what I thought it was going to be. I enjoyed the first one more. Of course, I wasn't like, oh my God, I want to know who it was anymore, because I already knew because of the audio. But because I couldn't focus on the audio, I didn't enjoy it as much, if that makes sense. Let's get into it. Number 1, the literary world depicted in Everyone on This Train is a Suspect is full of ego and pretension. Do you think the book's portrayal of authors and agents is a fair reflection of how literary culture often works? Or is it an exaggerated culture? Oh, an exaggerated caricature. I do think that is how it really works, because, you know, you see a lot of things on social media. You see a lot of things on Book Talk and Instagram. And, you know, a lot of people, like, do not think highly of Colleen Hoover. You know, personally, I know even Charmaine feels a certain way about Colleen Hoover, which is totally fine. She has right to her feelings. I know she messaged me when we first started book club, and she just said for me to please not ever recommend a Colleen Hoover book. And there are a lot of people that don't consider Colleen Hoover, not just talking about her personal life and the things with her son. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, do some research. I understand why Charmaine doesn't want to read her. But some people say she's not even that good of an author. Some people say she's what gets you into reading. Like, a lot of people picked up Colleen Hoover in 2020. when the world was shut down, and got back into reading. And then Colleen Hoover is like the one that introduced them. And then from there they started reading other authors and realized, wow, Colleen Hoover is not even that great. These authors are so much better. And this isn't me knocking down Colleen Hoover. I still have some of her books. I still plan on reading some of her books. I keep hearing how amazing Verity is, and I really want to read Verity. But I will say it's kind of how it was for me too, because although the book that really got me back into reading was by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It's actually a book we read for book club, which was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. But right after that, I read like November 9. I read It Ends With Us, It Starts With Us, all those like, classic Colleen Hoover books. And it's funny because my mom just called me the other day. She's like, oh, guess who's starting to read? Your aunt. And I said, oh, really? She goes, yeah, she picked up a Colleen Hoover book. And I said, oh my God, I swear it's like the same cycle. So I'm not saying people in the literary world like dislike her, but they probably do find her almost below them, I think I think too, like, someone who writes fluffy romances or like dark romances versus someone who writes like a thriller. In my opinion, the thriller takes a little more thought, because in the fluffy romance, they're going to end up together. The thriller, you really have to think, wow, how am I going to shock this audience? How am I going to make their jaw drop? Whodunit is a little harder to write. So they might see themselves as a little higher up. And that might not always be the case. I find there are a lot of authors that are down to earth. Like Freida McFadden. You guys know we've read a few Freida McFadden books here for our book club. And I follow her. She has a group called the Freida McFadden McFans. And she seems so down to earth in her posts. Like right now they're filming The Housemaid, which is being turned into a movie. And even she said she got to be on set, and she said she was fangirling when she met when she met Amanda Seyfried and Sydney Sweeney, and that she couldn't believe she was having this moment. I don't think she would ever see herself as above somebody else. But I'm sure there's some authors that kind of put their nose down on people. For example, my mom loved James Patterson growing up. And I don't want to knock James Patterson if you guys enjoy James Patterson. I haven't done my own research on him. And I've even read some of his books because, I'm a teenager. My mom had her entire bookshelf filled with him. And then my mom was like, oh, if you want to read some, like, you're more than welcome to. So I ended up reading the Maximum Ride series, which I really liked. And I read Sam's Letters to Jennifer, which is one of his romance books. And then Something's Diary to Nicholas. I can't remember. But he had like 2 major romances, and I read those and loved them. But recently, someone was talking to me about like why they don't like James Patterson, and it's because he says his books no longer sell because he's a white male. So when I heard that, I was kind of like, oh, not a fan of that, We should be reading more diverse authors. And if you like James Patterson, you want to read a white male author, that's totally fine. You can read whoever you want. I just don't think that should be the only thing you read. You know what I mean? You really, there's so many books out there. There's so much diversity. Why not delve a little deeper, So I do believe that in the literary world, there are probably some authors who look down on others. I'm sure it can be very cliche, like high school. Working at a high school, I see it. People tend to be in their own groups and kind of look down at others or think they're better than others. So I could definitely see that. Number 2, the boundaries of the detective genre are both embraced and mocked, and everyone on this train is a suspect. Do you think sticking to genre limits creativity, or can actually spark more ingenious storytelling? I don't think it limits creativity, because especially in like the thriller setting, like a whodunit, it could be literally anybody. So you're allowed to be super creative. It might limit creativity a little bit with a romance, because 99% of the time it should be a happily ever after. And if it's not a happily ever after, then it's not really a romance. There are certain rules with genres. So it can limit you, but I don't think it won't spark creativity. I think you can still be creative around the limits. And who's to say you have to listen to those limits? If you're an author, you can write about whatever you want. I mean, you might get some people angry and upset with you, but again, it's your book. You're allowed to do as you please. You don't have to follow those rules if you don't want to. Number 3, considering Ernest's struggle with his publisher's demands, do you believe that market pressure should influence how stories are told? Or should authors have the freedom to create without worrying about profitability? Having a deadline can definitely be stressful, and it can cause them to write a story that they do not enjoy. They might end up putting something out there that they don't love. So I do feel like they should have more freedom. At the end of the day, it's their name on that book. They should be proud of it. Maybe, and, you know, some authors really don't care if they make a profit. You know, again, I'm going to keep talking about it because I love her so much. But I feel like Freedom McFadden is one of those authors. Being a part of her group page, she says all the time, like, she literally showed one of the books. I think it was Housemaid. It was the little novella, the little short story. I think it's called, oh my God, The Housemaid's Wedding. And it's just a really short story in between book 2 and 3 of Millie getting married. I won't say who in case you haven't read the books. And she literally sold that book for $3.99 because it is a very small paperback. I think there's only 80 pages. And she showed Amazon charges her, I think, like $3.20 to make the book. So she only makes 80 cents a copy. She sold at the cheapest price she could possibly allow. She makes not a lot of profit from her books. If you notice, majority of her books are always on sale. They're all available on Kindle Unlimited. I pick up a lot of her books for like $8.99, $9.99, really, really cheap. And because she says all the time, she just wants her books out there. She wants everyone to be able to read her books. She's not in it to make the money. She's a doctor. That is her full-time job. Not anymore, but like that's how she started out. So it wasn't that she needed to hit it big to make money. She already had the money. She already lived comfortably. She just wrote because she wanted to. And now she's making all these crazy movie deals, which is amazing. So, you know, it doesn't have, for her, it doesn't have to be about profit. And maybe that's why she's so creative and has such all these amazing ideas. Because sometimes when you have that pressure on you, it definitely makes it harder. You get writer's block, you know? Number 4, Ernest Cunningham often seems more invested in his writing career than his relationship with Juliet. In his behavior, I think that's what I say is his. Oh, it is. I totally read that wrong. Is his behavior indicative of a broader issue of prioritizing profession over personal life, or is Ernest simply a flawed individual who learns to balance these aspects with time? Could be a little bit about both. There are definitely people out there that care more about their career, which is fine. That's why a majority of those people stay single for longer. They don't settle down till they're older. You know, their top priority is not like finding someone to spend the rest of their life with and start a family. You know, even, I don't know if I would necessarily say that was my path. Because I found Joe generally young. I was 26. But my focus was to go to college. You know, I didn't worry about having a high school boyfriend. I didn't worry about having a prom date. I just wanted to get into a good college. Then once I was in college, then I allowed myself to explore a little bit more. And I have a friend, same thing. She is a doctor. She's doing incredible. She graduated our high school as salutatorian. She was number 2. And that was always her goal. She went to the same college as me. She was a biochem major. Her whole life it was, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. She never dated in college. Then she took 2 years off. She did a year in the AmeriCorps. She did a year in the Peace Corps. And then when she came back and started medical school, that is when she started to like actually date. So she dated way later in life because her focus was her profession. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think in Ernest's case, I think Juliet deserved better because he was so focused on his career and he wasn't focused on her. You know, like she says, those debts were not easy for him. But she also lost her livelihood. She lost the house she grew up in, the hotel, she lost her career. So I do think it's a little bit of both with him. I think he's very focused on his career, but I also do think he is just a flawed individual because of everything he's been through. And he was married, got a divorce, then the wife ended up dating his brother. With Ernest, I definitely think it's a mixture of both. Okay, number 5. You ready? Harriet Murdoch's extreme actions to aid her husband highlight her perceptions of success and anonymity. Can't even talk today. Can such intense devotion ever be justified, or does it inevitably lead to harmful outcomes for everyone involved, including those she aims to protect? I don't think they can be justified. I mean, she literally killed people. I think, at the end of the day, if you're doing more harm than good, there's no justification. I'm comparing it with all the things going on in the news right now. I have been thinking a lot about the Underground Railroad and the Holocaust and those people that snuck African Americans in the Underground Railroad to get them to get out of slavery. Those people that hid Jews to save them from the Nazis. That is justified. They were doing more good than harm. But in this case, no. You know, it's one thing to, you're protecting your child, you're protecting a loved one, but you're not hurting anybody. You might just be hiding something or something along those lines. But that is a totally different situation. And it's not something he would even want her to do. He was shocked when he found out Harriet was the killer. That's not something he would ever ask her to do. He was totally fine with someone else's name being on his books. So she definitely took that upon herself. Number 6, Lisa Fulton's journey in confronting her past with McTavish raises questions about justice and personal sacrifice. To what extent should individuals be responsible for seeking justice in difficult circumstances? I don't like this question. I feel like it's kind of blaming the victim. She did what she could. She told people what happened to her. There was some kind of case, as far as I know, because they were testing her under her fingernails because she had some of his DNA. It's not her fault that the DNA was insufficient. You find out afterwards it was because somebody helped him. But if, at the end of the day, a lot of rape cases, they don't get the justice they deserve because it's harder to prove. And then those people walk out scot-free. And then the women that were victimized got nothing for it. Lisa got a little something out of it because I think he ended up giving her a check. Was it true justice? No, but I mean, it's better than absolutely nothing. So I think I'm trying to what extent should individuals be responsible for seeking justice? Not that much. I mean, they obviously need to confront what happened. They need to admit it. Obviously, if you're not going to admit it, then you can't get the justice you deserve. But that's it. That's all they should do. That's the only thing. They should admit what happened and be willing to, I know it's hard, but, they do have to get, like, body checked or whatever and run those tests. I'm not sure. That's not something I've ever had to gone through. But even if they don't want to do that, I mean, I think, at the end of the day that they're the victim and, more people should believe what they have to say. And I know there's false accusations and all those things, trust me, but if it's somebody who literally has a past, someone who's been known to have those problems, you should definitely believe the victim. Number 7. Jasper Murdoch chooses to remain a ghostwriter despite his talent, focusing on the joy of writing rather than fame. Does this make him a figure of humility and contentment, or can it be seen as a missed opportunity to claim rightful recognition in such a competitive industry? Like I said, with this one, I can kind of see a mixture of both. It truly did not bother him. As long as he was getting compensated, as long as he was being paid, because obviously he was the true writer, and he was okay with it, I see nothing wrong with that. Would I want a book I write to have my name? Yeah, I would, 100%. I think I earned that. I would, I'd be proud of that. But everybody's different. If he didn't need people to know it was him, then he didn't need people to know it was him. As long as he was getting his end of the bargain. Because, of course, it is his story. It is his words on the page. So there should be some kind of compensation for that. As long as he's not being, like, coerced into it. It's one thing if they're making him not sign his name. But if it was like all consensual, he was totally fine with it. I don't see anything wrong with it. He's definitely a very, like, I don't know, down to earth's the right word, but I guess, like he said, he a figure of humility and contentment. He was fine with the way things were, and it could have just continued like that. Instead, he ends up dead, which is really, really sad. But he just enjoyed writing, and that's all he wanted to do, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It is a missed opportunity. Like, he should, in my opinion, he should claim that it's him, but it's his right to do as he please. Some people don't want to be famous. Some people don't want their name out there. Number 8, many characters and everyone on this train as a suspect are not what they seem. How does the theme of false identity shape your perception of trust and betrayal in the story? This is one that I'm like, the only one I could think of, well, you find out McTavish is not the writer of his own books. You find out that obviously it's Jasper. You find out Wolfgang, who is supposed to be this amazing author, not amazing, like, well, it is amazing, but he's supposed to write, like, classic novels. He reminds me of, like, a Wuthering Heights, an Ernest Hemingway, You know what I mean? Like, he looks down on everybody else. You guys all write filth compared to me. And you find out he's using AI to write these, not his stories, but other stories, to just prove that people nowadays don't care about true literature. You find out a lot of different things on, obviously you find out Harriet's a wackadoo. So it's like, how does the theme of false identity shape your perception of trust and betrayal in the story? It definitely makes you put an arm's length and not to trust everybody, not to believe everything you see, everything you hear. There's definitely a lot of betrayal going on. You find out McTavish, not only did he not write his stories, but he was also a rapist. And the fact that he's hitting on his own daughter is insane. It was a crazy story. I think if I had read it as just a hardcover book, like, I'm not hard, at a hard copy, I probably would have liked it. But me starting it as an audio and then going into hard copy kind of like ruined the experience for me. But it was my first time trying it, because I know a lot of people who do that. I'm really glad I ended up buying the hard copy. I wouldn't even be able to do this review because, like I said, I did not understand what was happening at all. But, don't trust everybody, I guess, is the point of that question. That's all I can really think of. Because a lot of people kept McTavish's secret, which is really, really sad. Number 9, the Gemini pen serves as a symbolic link between power and downfall. Do you believe the pen is mightier than the sword? Can words cause more harm than action within the context? Yes. Lessa, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Not true. Words can definitely hurt. I have never been in a physical fight in my life. But have I been made fun of? Have I been, I don't know if tormented is too strong of a word, but have I been teased? Have I been hurt? Have I been bullied? Yes, 100%. Middle school, elementary school, it is not easy as a plus size person. Words can definitely hurt. I do think the pen is mightier than the sword. Words can cause more harm than action sometimes, 100%. Not always, depends on the action, but, I mean, look at all the harm that's happening right now in the world because of all these executive orders that are coming out. And that's someone signing a piece of paper. I'll leave it at that. Number 10. What are your overall thoughts on the book? Did you suspect any of the twists? No, I didn't suspect any of the twists. I didn't even know who Harriet was. When they admitted that she was the killer, I was like, who was Harriet? Because she was such a small character, which is fine. Like, obviously, you don't expect it to be, it doesn't always have to be the big character. Sometimes it's the butler. The butler did it. It was just, I really did not remember her. I really struggled with the audio. Like I said, I told you my thoughts. Not a big fan of this book compared to the first book. Could have been, though, because I did it as an audio instead of a hard copy. His third one just came out. I did want to read it. I might take a little bit of a pause from Benjamin Stevenson. Well, anyway, next week we'll be announcing the new book that we are reading. So I'm excited for that. So that'll definitely get me to read another book. And then maybe I'll try him again in the future. I'm curious to see what you guys thought of the book. Let me know down below. Did you guys like it as much as the first one? Or did you kind of have the same feelings as me? Or did you like the first one better, but you still liked this one? Let me know. Like, compare the two. Like, 0 out of 5 stars. Like, the first one, I would probably say, like, 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. This one, 2.5, maybe 3. Maybe 4.5, 3 is a better measurement there. Most of the time, the first one's always better, but did you like the second one? Or did you struggle with, like me? Or, like I said, it could just be because it was the audio. Because I was really excited because it was on a train. I thought of, like, Murder on the Orient Express. But, I don't know. I just really struggled to get into it. And like I said, it could have been the way that I read it. The last final question. I apologize, but I am going to bow out. I know Charmaine talked about in one of her videos that because life is getting so hectic for me, and you guys know that, and if you watch my What's Up Wednesday 2 weeks ago, I am now taking 2 classes. So work and school have been really hard. I literally have a big, huge meeting at work tomorrow that I've had to prep for. I'm behind in one of my classes. My professor's been emailing me, asking where my assignments are. It is 8:20 at night. So I am going to get ready and go to bed. But it's casting the characters. And to be honest with you, because I listened to it as audio and I really struggled to get into it, I didn't imagine any of the characters. So I'm going to skip that part. But watch Charmaine. I'm really curious to see who she casts. We were going to cast Henry McTavish, Lisa Fulton, Brooke, SF Majors, Alan Royce, Wolfgang, Wyatt Lloyd, Jasper Murdoch, Harriet Murdoch, and Simone Morrison. And to be honest with you guys, I don't even remember half these people. I really did not get into this book. I don't remember Wyatt. I think Wyatt was the manager. I don't really remember Alan Royce. He must have been one of the authors. Now I can't remember if SF Majors was a male or female. I think a female. The only ones that I actually imagine people, which is funny, is Lisa Fulton and Brooke. And that's because I have a paraprofessional named Brooke. So I kept thinking of her the whole time I was reading it. Well, listening, reading, whatever. And Lisa Fulton, I have a teacher at the school named Lisa. And for some reason she fit the perfect age range. So I kept thinking about Lisa. That doesn't help any you guys. It's not any famous actresses or actors. You don't know who they are. But I am going to bow out and end it at that. I apologize. It's just a lot going on in life. And it's late. And two, I just didn't really get into the book that much. So I didn't really imagine any characters. But I hope you appreciate at least the review. Definitely a shorter one for me. I know the last one was like 45 minutes. Because I get excited and I want to talk about the book. I feel like I didn't even mention that much about the book. It was more about like authors nowadays, like modern day authors. It was more about, you know, people committing crimes. Is it, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it more harm versus good? You know, will words hurt you more than, you know, sticks and stones may break my bones? That whole thing. I feel like I didn't even talk about the book that much, but I didn't get into the book, so straightforward and honest here, guys. You gotta love me for that. I know, and I didn't go on to Fable once because like I said, struggled to get into this book. Really curious to see what you guys think. Really curious to see what Charmaine thinks. Do not forget to go check out my friend Charmaine. Hopefully she liked the book better than me. We don't usually talk too much about it. We usually wait to watch each other's videos. That is it for this one. Hang on for next week. It'll be the reveal for the next book. Hopefully I like that one more than I liked this one. And be safe, guys.